Do you ever feel like you're constantly chasing perfection, trying to keep it all together and still falling short? Maybe you struggle to say no when you know you should, or find yourself afraid to speak up or be vulnerable, worried about what others might think. Does it ever seem like the more you try to fit in, the less you actually belong? As Brené Brown herself says, vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. If I told you that the key to overcoming these struggles isn't about doing more or being perfect, what if it's about embracing vulnerability, showing up authentically, and learning how to truly connect with others? In the next few minutes, we'll dive into 9 powerful lessons that can help you break free from these traps and live a life of courage, compassion, and connection. Ready to step into a new way of being? Let's begin. 1. Vulnerability is a strength. Strength. In our everyday lives, we often try to protect ourselves by hiding our true feelings or pretending to be perfect. We avoid showing weakness, thinking that if we reveal any flaws or uncertainties, others might judge us or think less of us. But when we do this, we end up building walls around ourselves, making it harder to connect with others. Instead of feeling strong, we often feel lonely, isolated, or disconnected from the people around us. We might even start to feel overwhelmed, pretending everything is fine when, deep down, we're struggling. Brené Brown's quote, "Vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome," reminds us that vulnerability is not about being weak. It's about being brave enough to show up as our true selves, even when we don't have all the answers. It's about being honest, even when the outcome is uncertain. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we invite others to do the same, creating stronger, more authentic relationships. If we want to experience deeper connections and a more fulfilling life, we need to start embracing vulnerability. It's about letting go of the need to be perfect and instead allowing ourselves to be real. We can begin by sharing something personal with a friend, admitting when we don't have it all together, or simply being honest about our emotions. Instead of hiding our struggles, we can be open about them, which actually makes us stronger. So, the next time you feel the urge to protect yourself by hiding your true feelings, remember that being vulnerable is not a weakness. It's the key to building trust, creating meaningful connections, and living an authentic life. As me. 2. Shame and guilt are different. Shame and guilt are different. In life, we all make mistakes, but when we do, many of us struggle with feelings of shame and guilt. Often, we confuse the two. Shame makes us feel like we are bad or unworthy, whereas guilt is about feeling bad for something we've done. The problem with shame is that it can eat away at us. It convinces us that we're flawed at our core and that we don't deserve love or connection. As a result, we might withdraw, hide, or become defensive rather than confronting the issue or making things right. Brené Brown explains this difference clearly. Shame is the intensely painful feeling that we are unworthy of love and belonging. Guilt, on the other hand, is the feeling that we did something wrong. This is an important distinction. While guilt can lead us to reflect, apologize, and make changes, shame keeps us stuck in a negative loop, reinforcing feelings of worthlessness. Link shame. To move forward in a healthier way, it's crucial to understand this difference. When we feel guilty, we can take responsibility for our actions and learn from them. But when we feel shame, we need to challenge that feeling and remind ourselves that one mistake doesn't define us. Instead of saying, "I'm a failure," we can say, "I made a mistake, but I can do better next time." This shift allows us to learn and grow without letting shame control us. By recognizing when we feel shame and understanding that it doesn't reflect our worth, we can free ourselves from its grip. We can face our mistakes, make amends where necessary, and use guilt as a tool for growth, not as a reason to beat ourselves up. Remember, making mistakes is part of being human. It's how we respond to them that makes all the difference. 3. The power of empathy. In our busy lives, it's easy to get caught up in our own problems and challenges, sometimes forgetting to truly connect with others. We often try to solve people's problems, offer advice, or even distance ourselves from their pain, thinking that's the best way to help. But when we do this, we miss out on the most powerful tool for connection: empathy. When we fail to empathize, we leave others feeling unheard and alone. Brené describes empathy as feeling with people, not just offering solutions. Empathy is about being present with someone in their pain, understanding their emotions, and letting them know they're not alone. It's not about fixing their problems or offering advice right away. It's about listening, validating their feelings, and connecting on a human level. When we show empathy, we build trust, strengthen relationships, and create a sense of shared humanity. To practice empathy, we don't need to have all the answers. Instead, we can simply listen. Sometimes all someone needs is a friend who truly hears them. This means putting aside our own judgments and letting go of the urge to immediately fix things. When we listen deeply and without interruption, we create space for the other person to express themselves fully. It's also important to acknowledge their feelings, saying things like, "That sounds really tough," or "I can imagine how that must feel." These simple acts of empathy make people feel seen and supported. Empathy isn't just about being there for others. It helps us build stronger connections and deeper relationships. By making empathy a priority, we can create a more compassionate world where people feel valued and understood. It's in these moments of shared vulnerability that real, lasting connections are formed. 4. The importance of setting boundaries. In our daily lives, many of us struggle with saying no or setting limits, whether at work, with friends, or in our personal lives. We often feel guilty about rejecting requests, even when it's clear we're overwhelmed or stretched too thin. As a result, we end up feeling burned out, resentful, or even taken advantage of. Without clear boundaries, we can easily lose ourselves in trying to meet everyone else's needs, neglecting our own well-being in the process. Brené emphasizes the importance of setting boundaries, saying, "Daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves, even when we risk disappointing others." This quote highlights a key truth. Setting boundaries is not selfish. In fact, it's an act of self-respect and self-care. By setting limits, we're not only protecting our time and energy, but we're also showing others how to treat us with respect. Learning to set boundaries is essential for maintaining balance in our lives. It starts with recognizing our limits and being honest about what we can and cannot do. If something feels like too much, it's okay to say no without feeling guilty. It's important to communicate our needs clearly, whether it's with a boss, a friend, or a family member. Boundaries aren't about shutting others out. They're about creating healthy spaces where we can show up as our best selves. By setting boundaries, we also teach others to respect our needs and our time. It's a way of prioritizing our well-being and ensuring we have the energy to show up fully in the areas that matter most. Remember, when you say no to something that drains you, you're saying yes to the things that nourish you. And in the long run, that's how we can give more to the people we care about, without losing ourselves in the process. 5. Courage over comfort. In life, it's tempting to always choose the safe, comfortable route. We shy away from difficult conversations, avoid taking risks, or stay in situations that don't serve us simply because we fear the discomfort that change or growth might bring. But when we prioritize comfort over courage, we miss out on opportunities to grow, learn, and truly live. Brené Brown speaks to this beautifully when she says, "Courage starts with showing up and letting ourselves be seen." This reminds us that courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act in spite of it. It's about stepping out of our comfort zones and embracing the discomfort of growth. Courage is not about being fearless. It's about being willing to face the fear and take the next step anyway. The next time you feel the urge to avoid a tough situation, whether it's a challenging conversation or a new opportunity, ask yourself, what's more important right now, my comfort or my growth? It's in those uncomfortable moments that we learn the most about ourselves and our potential. Saying something difficult, trying something new, or taking a risk might feel scary at first, but it's often the key to discovering a new level of strength and confidence. By choosing courage over comfort, we break free from the limitations we place on ourselves. It doesn't mean we won't experience fear, but it means we're not letting that fear control us. Instead, we step into the discomfort, trusting that growth lies on the other side. And in the end, we realize that the most rewarding parts of life often come from the moments that challenge us the most. 6. We live in a world that often tells us we need to be perfect. Whether it's our appearance, our careers, or our relationships, there's constant pressure to measure up to unrealistic standards. This obsession with perfection makes us believe that we have to do everything right, or we're somehow not good enough. As a result, we might find ourselves stressed, anxious, and constantly trying to meet an ideal that doesn't even exist. The truth is, the pursuit of perfection is exhausting and, ultimately, unattainable. Brené Brown challenges this idea when she says, "Perfectionism is a self-destructive and addictive belief system that fuels this primary thought. If I look perfect, live perfect, work perfect, I can avoid or minimize the painful feelings of shame, judgment, and blame." This quote helps us realize that perfectionism isn't about striving for excellence. It's about trying to avoid the vulnerability that comes with being imperfect. It's a defense mechanism to protect ourselves from the pain of failure or rejection. The key to moving past perfectionism is accepting that it's okay to be flawed. No one is perfect, and trying to be will only lead to burnout and disappointment. Instead of focusing on achieving perfection, we should focus on progress. Embrace the idea that making mistakes is part of the journey, and that those mistakes can teach us valuable lessons. By letting go of the need to be perfect, we free ourselves to live more authentically and with less stress. If you find yourself constantly striving for perfection, try shifting your mindset. When you catch yourself aiming for perfection, remind yourself that doing your best is enough. Celebrate the small wins, learn from setbacks, and remember that vulnerability, embracing imperfection, is what makes us human and relatable. The myth of perfection only holds us back from truly living. By embracing our flaws, we make room for growth, connection, and the beauty that comes from being authentically ourselves. When humor doesn't break down the way ice, we present it with others. 7. Wholehearted living. In today's world, it's easy to get caught up in the rush of daily life, juggling responsibilities, meeting expectations, and always being on. But when we focus solely on tasks and achievements, we can lose touch with what truly matters, living with intention and purpose. Without realizing it, we might end up going through the motions, disconnected from ourselves and the people around us. This kind of life often leads to burnout, stress, and a sense of emptiness. Brené Brown defines wholehearted living as engaging in our lives from a place of worthiness. It's about showing up for ourselves and others with an open heart, being present in the moment, and living authentically. Wholehearted living isn't about being perfect. It's about embracing our flaws, accepting our imperfections, and being kind to ourselves along the way. It's about making choices that align with our values and living in a way that reflects who we truly are, not who we think we should be. To live wholeheartedly, we need to make space for what really matters. This starts with practicing self-compassion, letting go of the need to be perfect, and taking time to nurture our relationships. It also involves being mindful of how we spend our time and ensuring that our actions are aligned with our values. Instead of just rushing from one task to the next, we can focus on being present in the moment, allowing ourselves to truly experience life. Wholehearted living is about embracing vulnerability, being authentic, and living with a sense of purpose and connection. It's about giving ourselves permission to be imperfect and still worthy of love and belonging. When we live wholeheartedly, we create a life that is richer, more fulfilling, and truly meaningful. 8. Belonging versus fitting in. In our society, there is often a pressure to fit in, to mold ourselves to meet the expectations of others, to conform, and to do what's popular or accepted. We might change our opinions, hide parts of ourselves, or act in ways that don't feel true to who we are, all in the hopes of being accepted. But when we focus too much on fitting in, we lose the essence of who we are, and we can end up feeling disconnected or inauthentic. Brené Brown makes an important distinction between belonging and fitting in. Belonging is being accepted for you. Fitting in is being accepted for who you're not. This quote reminds us that true belonging happens when we feel valued for our authentic selves, not for pretending to be someone we're not. He further adds, remember, we all worry about something. Thank you for your kind words. Belonging is about being surrounded by people who appreciate us for who we truly are, flaws and all, while fitting in often requires us to hide our true selves in order to meet external expectations. To experience real belonging, we need to start by being true to ourselves. Instead of changing who we are to fit in, we can focus on finding communities and relationships where we feel accepted and loved for who we are. This might mean letting go of certain people or situations that don't allow us to show up authentically. It might also mean finding the courage to express our true thoughts, beliefs, and feelings, even if they differ from the crowd. When we prioritize belonging over fitting in, we create deeper, more meaningful connections. We stop hiding our true selves and start finding the people and places where we are valued just as we are. Real belonging allows us to thrive and be our best selves, while fitting in keeps us small and disconnected from who we really are. Remember, it's always better to be yourself and belong than to fit in and feel empty inside. 9. Leaders must be vulnerable. Many of us think of leaders as strong, confident individuals who always have the answers, and we often expect them to be perfect. We believe that leaders should have everything under control and never show weakness or uncertainty. However, this mindset can create a barrier between leaders and those they lead, leading to a lack of trust, connection, and communication. Brené Brown challenges this idea by stating, leaders who are willing to be vulnerable create environments where people feel safe to take risks, make mistakes, and learn. This is a powerful reminder that vulnerability is not a sign of weakness in leadership. It's actually a key trait of effective leaders. When leaders show vulnerability, whether it's admitting when they don't have all the answers, asking for feedback, or acknowledging their mistakes, it fosters a culture of openness, trust, and growth. To lead effectively, it's important to embrace vulnerability. Leaders should be open about their struggles and challenges, allowing others to see that it's okay to not be perfect. This not only builds trust, but also encourages creativity, collaboration, and innovation within the team. When people see that their leader is willing to be authentic, they are more likely to feel empowered to do the same, creating a more supportive and productive environment. If you're in a leadership position, start by sharing your own challenges, asking for help when you need it, and being open to feedback. Acknowledge your mistakes and show that you're constantly learning and growing. This will not only make you a more relatable and respected leader, but it will also encourage your team to be more open, collaborative, and resilient in their own work. By embracing vulnerability, leaders create environments where people feel safe to take risks, innovate, and grow. Now we are about to end the video. Now it is time to change your life. Write down a comment and say that you want to change your life. No matter how difficult it is to change, I will read each of your comments and feature one of the best comments in our channel. If you want a daily dose of unfiltered motivation, subscribe to our channel. Exercise and formula for you. Be ready for inspiration and support. It will come at a price tag. It may be readable in Spanish whenever it becomes of substance. All opinions of the panel are welcome on the platform. Original answer provided by AI. My comments will be measured and sent to your office by mail.